Hi, if you watched my last episode on my deep dive with on Cassie from Euphoria, you notice I talked mostly about what to do if you see a Cassie in your area and how to be a faithful servant in blessing her. But I realized I didn't go that deep into what to do if you are Cassie or you have tendencies or temptations like her, which is why I decided to do a part two. So I hope this episode resonates with you if you fall into the latter. So stick around. Hi, welcome to Belated with Jane, a podcast for late bloomers like myself, and host by sharing my learning lessons that this will help you save time and heartache, and most importantly, get closer to the Lord. But before we start, let's get into a word of prayer. And I don't really care at this point how my lashes look. If you've seen my earlier videos, I've always made a little comment about that. Like it doesn't matter once my eyes are open, but that's not gonna stop me from praying. So let's get into it. Um, Father God, we thank you so much for a wonderful day. Thank you for a wonderful weather. Thank you for just allowing me or giving me time to do this. And giving me the space and Lord, giving me the wisdom. And Lord, that I pray that the people watching be blessed by it and that they turn will just turn their hearts towards you, Lord. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. If you see my eyes darting around, I use iMovie to film my videos because I don't have time to transfer an SD card to my computer. So it's just easier to edit right after. And with that, I have usually my notes up while I'm filming. So in case because when I edit my videos, I realize, oh, I'd be looking a little crazy. And sometimes I will put on makeup and sometimes I don't. Because my eyebrows are crazy. They're just a challenge. So as long as I get like for me, I just feel comfortable. Once I get my lashes and I look like I have some color in my lips, I really don't care. And if anything, it's almost like the French style of makeup where you just enhance what you have, but don't do too much like the Americans do. So, anyways, I'm getting off topic. So, let's get into it. So, if you watched my last video on part one of my deep dive of Cassie from a Christian perspective, I realized when I was editing it, I spent majority of it talking about if you know a Cassie, and then I spent the last 3 minutes talking about if you are Cassie. And I thought that just doesn't do justice. And you know me, I don't want to redo all that. I work full time. I got a family to raise, so I decided let's do part two. I think it's worth doing that. And so, to recap, if you didn't see my last video, uh, Cassie is a character from the show HBO show Euphoria, and it's about a bunch of teenagers. They're friends, semi friends, and you just get to see their drama, and they all have interesting stories, even though I don't agree with the nudity, the violence, the cursing. um but nonetheless, the characters are interesting, the storylines are interesting, and I decided to focus on Cassie because I think she's the one that I kind of understand more than the other characters, that I kind of could resonate, at least the temptations. And so for this episode, we're talking about if you have tendencies like Cassie or temptations, like how do you navigate that as a Christian? And it happens to the best of us. And even though there's other characters who have different addictions like drugs, and identity and whatnot, I'm just going to focus on, since I'm focusing on Cassie, I'm going to focus on her boy craziness. I think that's her addiction. People, they always downplay, like, oh, she's boy crazy. But no, I think it's everyone's trying to escape from something, right? So whether you're into drugs, doom scrolling, video games, getting yourself lost in relationships, that's another addiction I think no one talks about or make that connection. So that's what I'm going to be going into. And so the reason she is really crazy, if you saw the last episode, was that she does have daddy issues, and this is not to make fun light of, okay? We're all supposed to have a functioning healthy father and a functioning healthy mother. I think that's how God designed it to be. And when you're missing one of them, it can do something to you. And even if you have both parents in your life, like in my case, if they're not healthy, functioning parents, it can still do something. Because I had a mom and a dad. In my case, my dad was very broken and he carried that with him. his temper tantrums. We were always trying to regulate or trying to detect what his emotions are going to be that day. We tried our best to prevent it, which no child should ever have that burden. But that was our case because, I think he had a lot of trauma, and I think he was on a spectrum, and those two can exist. Uh, just because you're on a spectrum doesn't like deviate anyone from being a jerk, right? Those two things can exist at one time. And so I think he did not, I'm not going to go into my dad's past because that's a whole nother story, but basically because of his upbringing, he did not know how to regulate his emotions, and he took that out on a lot of us. And when, as a child, witnessing like constant fighting, domestic violence, like no child should ever have to see that, and it puts us at edge. And then and we don't know what's normal at that point. We know that we don't like it, but we ourselves don't realize how much impact it has on us. So even if you have two parents, if if one or both are toxic, you can still have daddy or mommy issues. And Cassie does have daddy issues. And I did talk about Lexi too. And I said before in the last video that Lexi is more judgmental, whereas Cassie wants to. Her distraction is boys. I think Lexi's more into, I'm just going to get lost into studying, into theater club, and I want to get out of here. And I think from the previews of season 3, I think she's into Hollywood. So she's focused on her career, and that can look great, but she's not, as you can tell, even from the church, she's not vulnerable. And I think she has a problem with that. So her and Cassie deal with it differently. So if you say, well, Cassie, even though Cassie like this, what about Lexi? Lexi is not perfect at all. Okay. They just handle it differently. But for this episode, we're just talking about Cassie's struggle. So if you have temptations like Cassie, and kind of like Samson, like I made another video where you just like getting into relationships, you just want to be with somebody who you think will be your best friend, like a built-in best friend, without even knowing yourself or that person. I would say sit back, assess someone's character, because not everyone who hits on you is a good person, and not everyone deserves your attention, because not everyone has your best interests, and you might not have their best interests at heart. I've seen people that go into a relationship and they don't know anything about the person they're with, because all they want is that person next to them. They don't care if what the person's interests are, or if it's beneficial for that person. So you may think like, well, this person's next to me and I'm happy, but do you know anything about this person that you're seeing? Do you actually care about their well-being, or are you holding them emotional hostage? But you don't even know it because you're just so hurt. You're operating out of hurt. Because a good person, if you were a functionally healthy person, a good person will wait for you. A jerk will just try to gaslight and manipulate to get into your pants early and out, right? So if you grew up watching all those rom-coms, those movies of romance, they did a lot of brainwashing because they basically replace what we should be offering is agape love and not eros. And agape is just God's love for humanity, like the best love. There's eros, there's philia, and there's agape, and philia is like friendship, city of brothers. I think that's what they refer to Philadelphia, right? And then there's eros, like erotic romance, but then agape is the highest form of love. But let's go back. I'm getting myself too carried away. Okay, so let's say, okay, you're not getting yourself healed, and you're just operating like a headless chicken because you just want to be loved. Okay, you go and say yes to every person that hits on you, or you are known for being a serial dater and having multiple boyfriends, even if it's one person at a time. People are gonna in your town are gonna think you're fickle. The women will not trust you near the men, so you're not even gonna have that many friendships. And then, those guys don't care. Protect your reputation. They are. It's just a boost to their ego. If anything, they're gonna run their big mouth. So they don't care about your reputation, and they don't care about your privacy. And that kind of humiliation will drive you to either leave town, or if you can't leave town, it might drive you to do worse things that I don't want to speak on. Okay. And that can do something to someone. So yeah, right now I'm talking about reputation, but reputations can only motivate you for so long. Because then you'll just think, oh, I'll be more slick, I'll just hide it better. But we're not getting to the root of it, because at the end of the day, having access to too many souls is not good for the soul. And you're not just potentially contracting more STDs, but you're really contracting more trauma and soul ties. So it's not even about slut shaming, because I don't like the phrase slut shaming. I think it should be changed to heart issue. Like, we should not be shaming people if they are promiscuous. We should be looking at what's the heart issue for it, because at the end of the day, we are just meant for one person at a time. And we're not gonna, let's not get into technicality, but what if you're a widow? Like, for a majority of the time, we're all meant for one person that God has in mind, and we're meant to be that one person for that person as well. So that shift needs to go to the Lord, and it has to have him be your best friend, your number one. You can try to like keep him on a parallel, but I'm speaking from experience that that's the only way. Because he is the one that's going to heal your daddy issues, and he's going to heal, if you don't have a daddy issues or other addictions, he's going to heal all that. He's going to help heal your identity. And you're going to go from a scarcity mindset, once you see how much you are loved by the Lord, to a abundant mindset. And that will actually, you will actually have better discernment on who your person would be. So, because at the end of the day, if you don't get healed, the enemy is not going to stop sending suitors if that's your weakness. And he still might, even as you're getting healed, okay? But you'll just get better if the closer you are to the Lord. That's why it's important to surrender. I emphasize that because, like, you could try your way or save time and say, God, I don't know what I'm doing. You're the only one who can tell me. And if the focus is on just being with the Lord, which it should be anyways, because I talk about agape love, how it needs to be priority over the eros love, then that's a place where you need to just surrender, you know, which I had to do. Like, right before I met my husband, I said this in my other videos, but like, I really came to a place where nothing was working for me, and I had to surrender and give up everything and just say, okay, Lord, it's just me and you and my cat. Okay, let's go buy this 1 bedroom condo. Like, I went through many breakdowns to get to that point, and that's when my identity was built that the Lord loves me, and no gossip, no slander, no one's opinion can hurt me as much as before. I'm not saying I'm, foul proof of all that, but it was just more like I was starting to live abundantly instead of scarcity, because I already felt love, and God was healing me of my daddy issues, and He was helping me see what a dad's supposed to be. And there's a book, I forgot the author's name, but it's called "Come to Papa," and my friend gave it to me. She let me borrow it, I think. And she was in International House of Prayer. So if you know the author, or I'll just put the name of the author when I edit this, but that book really helped me see God not just as a fearful deity, but like as a father. And God was so good that He actually blessed me with many father figures in my life. So it was I didn't recognize it, but slowly I started to see, oh, this is what having a father is like. So that really helped. But really, surrender, read the word, because the word, God speaks so much in the word. If you can just do like one chapter a morning and a night before you go to bed, trust me, you'll be surprised how changed you are by the end of the week. And pray, right? We always talk about praying. You ask God to heal you. You ask God to connect you to the right Christian healing program. There's so many. I think I took some Christian program, thanks to Sunny and Peter Choi, and they used the Francis and his wife, the McNuts, who created this program. So Judith, okay. Anyways, I'm like going all over, but Abide. And there's so many videos on abiding, on just like, visualizing, you walking with the Lord. Because sometimes it's hard to sit still and you're just waiting, but to start with you with the Lord, whether you're walking on the beach or at the well. John 15:9 says, "As the Father loved me, I also have loved you. Abide in my love. Abide in my love." So went too much, but really, I wrote like right below, like understand your identity. And as you understand your identity, you'll not just feel love, but you'll also see God's given talents and purpose for you. So as I said before, focus on who God is and your calling with him, and you're gonna and surround yourself with good godly mentors and role models, because sometimes you just gotta go out and serve or volunteer so you can get out of your head. And I think not that is a guarantee, but when you figure out who God is and your calling, I've heard so many stories where people met their spouse like from the same similar calling. Like let's say you have a heart for prison ministry, you find your future spouse from someone who else is volunteering. Now that is not a means to go get your person. Like I said, God is a priority. Like I said before, I didn't know I was gonna have somebody. At that point, I was just ready to I surrendered everything and just was like, okay, Lord, just you and me. Um and it's not like, oh, God rewards you. It's just like, it's whether his plans are not for you to have someone or not, it's up to God if it's his will, but whether or not you have to respect it. Um, but stepping into your calling will show you that there's a big place for you outside of you and your desires. And this world is huge. And I think it's good to know that you and God are partnering to make an impact in this world. But anyways, I did all that, okay? Uh, Before I met my husband, I will say I did all that, and it was my ego and pride that stood in the way right before I surrendered. So I did Bible study, I did the mission trip, I did attend, I did pray, but I think it was when I finally surrendered my ego and pride, was there transformation. And the ego is like very subtle, and pride as well, because let's face it, all of us like feeling desired. We feel huge ego boost. We feel so complimented and flattered. Um, Second Timothy 2:22 says, "Flee also youthful lusts, but pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart." So all in all, remember that this too shall come to pass. That person that's hitting on you, that person that's like trying to take up your space that doesn't even deserve it, all that temptation is all gonna come to pass. Like just just like you can't act on every urge, and giving it a day or two is not gonna do it. Like, a good person who's genuine is usually gonna be more patient anyways. So as I said before, is that until I was finally defeated of all that, like nothing was working, I finally surrendered my ego, my pride, did I really understand that God's in control and that He is the prize. Psalms 23:5-6 says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." I've heard one of my former Bible teachers said he always asked God, either fill my cup, may my cup overflow. And it really hit me that if our cup is not overflowing with God's love, then this is a time to step back and just see what's up. It's not saying you're a bad Christian, but saying what do we need to surrender. Because I said, after I gave room for God to fill my cup, it actually then drew me to the right person. But if it, but even if it didn't draw my husband, I better with God than with the wrong person. I have a friend who always said, one right person is not going to drastically do a lot for you, because already you have um the love from the Lord, okay? But one wrong person, it's such a headache. And I could totally see that, especially when I hear from my friends and family who's going through marital problems. Um, so after I let the Lord, fill my cup, after going from scarcity to abundant mindset, did I truly become more empathetic. And I became actually a better friend, daughter, sister, wife, and mom. I think I can confidently say that. Like, it actually, I've always back then struggled with like, oh, why is this person it's more popular than me? Which I don't even want that anymore. But when I did struggle with that, after I really had my heart to heart journey with the Lord, like really struggling, like challenging moments, it actually drew the right people in my life. And so Galatians 5:22-23 says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self control. Against such, there is no law. So the fruit of all that was showing after I've just been like, all right, let me obey, let me surrender, let me seek God, even though seek His will over my will. Because there are a lot of times where I want to do what I want to do, but I always felt like even though I didn't understand God's will, I thought, okay, there has to be something better because obviously what I was doing was not working. So I'm going to trust the Lord even though I don't get it, and it actually brought more fruit in my life. But there is a time where you just have to spiritually mature from being an adolescent to an adult. And you can tell you're mostly healed when you see God as your number one and that your ego is humbled and you are quick to check your ego because we all have vices that we need to get checked. And that when we feel loved, so like Jeremiah 31:3, the Lord appeared of old to me, saying, yes, I have loved you with an everlasting love. And when you're forgiven, Psalms 103:12, as far as the east is from the west, so far he has removed our transgressions from us. So when you feel loved and forgiven, um, and you start to see people from Jesus' eyes with wisdom and grace, uh, therefore, Matthew 10:16 says, therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So there's just so much freedom and all that. Because sometimes a lot of people, even I thought for a while I was spiritually fine, but I think the more I kept surrendering, and I say that all the time, the key word is surrendering, seeking, the more I realize, oh yeah, the love for my Lord. At first, I didn't felt it. I tried in the beginning, I didn't feel it, but the more I kept abiding and visualizing and praying, and crying, I think the more I started to see that, hey, God is the person who I'm with all the time, and I'm going to be with Him to the end of time. It really humbles you. It really changes you. And I want that for everybody, which is why I made my channel in the first place. I want people to break free, get healed, and feel the love of the Lord. And I want to feel the love of the Lord all the time. And so this is also keeping me accountable by reading the Word more than I have before. So, anyways, like I said, if you have temptations like Cassie, or you struggle, go pray about it, find the right mentors and find the right Christian healing program, break free from bondage, break free from strongholds, know that Jesus was there during those moments, and know that all that stuff, that temptations that come your way, all this will come to pass. And so I pray for you, those who are watching, and I pray blessings for you. So thank you for watching. Hey, thank you so much for listening. If this episode resonated with you, please remember to hit the like button, share, leave a comment, subscribe. Remember to hit the bell for notifications or leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you so much and God bless.